Thanks for whoever's dropping in. We're going to wait just a minute here before we get started just to make sure the stream is going to be running nicely. Hey, Penguin Goats, what's up, man? First stream back since the game. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about you. I've just been doing a lot of planning and everything's taking a little bit longer because, case in point, today, the moment I started OBS, I hit a blue screen of death and had to do a complete restart and we actually got one of our coaching candidates as a former Green Bay Packers tight end coach. How do you? Oh, that's right. We already talked about the Aaron Rodgers, that deal. But how are you doing, Penguin? Having a good day so far? Fly, Eagle, fly. My apologies if I have cussed already, but I will again attempt to not cuss during the stream. Give me just one more moment here and we will get started. All right, guys. By guys, I mean Penguin. But roll them sleeves up, and we gonna wait 2 more minutes here, if you don't mind, before we get started, just to let the stream sit for a moment, see if we can get anyone else coming in before I start this. And we're gonna start a recording as well, because I'm gonna try to see if I can upload this to Audacity for a podcast. It's gonna be our first attempt, really. We shall see. Hoping we'll get a few more people in here, but I highly doubt it. We made some posts on Twitter and Facebook, and we're still working on Discord server as we speak. Thought that was my PC making that noise. So how has it been? I'm gonna tell you right. I don't know if you're talking about life or football, but football it ain't looking good for us. We're trying to find, but personal, we're trying to find this money for this PC rebuild. We're trying to make some money one way or another. I'm trying to get a more formatted stream schedule going. We're gonna get Poe off the screen. And we're about 1 minute out. I want to do a Q&A soon, but I know I don't have enough subscribers or regular viewers to do a good Q&A session, sadly. Ah, Baltimore is trying, but without being I the NFLPA, the NFL Player Association is heavily pushing right now. Um, we're going to talk this, I guess, before the stream. So right now for Lamar Jackson, before getting to the offensive coordinators, the NFLPA is basically what, and in their words, Deshaun Jackson's contract was one end. They want Lamar Jackson's to be the bookend and really cement these fully guaranteed contracts. Of course, Lamar is represented by himself and his mother, which kind of complicates situation a little bit. Case in point, I think Mark Andrews represents himself, doesn't have an agent. We got that deal done in 3 days, according to EDC, which is something he talked about in the presser. In the presser, you could truly sense basically Baltimore's drawn a line in the sand for Lamar. I think it's a fair deal that they've drawn in the sand, but for some reason, I don't know why Lamar hasn't taken the deal. I guess over the guaranteed money. Um, yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like I said, I don't want it to happen, but I could really envision the Baltimore Ravens trading Lamar Jackson, um, which is very sad to say. But I say that because the exclusive tag that Lamar's going to carry is going to be like 43 to 45 million dollars basically, which is going to destroy our cap space horribly. And Baltimore's really not about that. They may take the trend like a lot of these teams do, where they go really heavily over the salary cap 1 year. However, it usually is very bad for the team in the long run, and Steve Biscotti is more about long-term success than short, which is why we've always been a drafting team. Yeah, Tyler Huntley, in my opinion, runs one of the best short passing games I've seen in the NFL. He did not look good though after that concussion and some injuries, but he looked good in the Pro Bowl the other day. I've always wanted to see if Huntley could do more, but even when he was in these past few games, the lack of downfield passing truly did catch my eye as someone who enjoys you have to in the NFL have a vertical passing scheme or something that you can go deep with or a quarterback that can hit those deep throws. And I just haven't seen that from Huntley, which is a little sad and alarming. I think in the right system, he could thrive. And maybe there's some things I didn't know. Maybe he was hurt. Um, it's just one of those ones. It truly also depends on what you could get for Lamar. I'm not giving Lamar up for cheap because he has, like I've talked about, MVP #1 potential in the league. I don't think he's played up to that potential so far, especially the past 2 years. But for the sake in the future of the franchise, it's one of those ones where you could basically take, again, let's say you got a first round pick this year, a first round pick next year, maybe a second round pick this year, and maybe some later picks scattered throughout. You could take that second and that first, or a first and a third, and go get basically any quarterback you wanted in that draft. The draft this year, there's some interesting prospects. And I'm going to be doing my breakdown here soon. I want to see what Levy's or Levi's looks like out of, what is it, Eastern Kentucky or Kentucky? Just because, the name. And like I said, he is a great game manager. His short game accuracy is actually really good. I think he would have thrived in like Sean Payton's old offense down in New Orleans, honestly. I think he would have done really well down there. It's just I don't know. We're in a great place too that if we could just get Lamar to a good contract, we could possibly get DeAndre Hopkins in as well and really make a big shot this year while potentially bringing back almost all of our team. He would finish 10-7. I mean, I could see that. He's good enough, honestly, and that's why he has been our back. He's actually going to be, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look back at my notes and see if I have it right here. I'm trying to remember if he's a restricted or yeah. So Tyler Huntley is going to be a restricted free agent this offseason, meaning we have to tender him. With that being said, another team could come and take Tyler Huntley for case in point if we put us, because also the tender is tied to how much their salary is. So Baltimore can't really afford to probably pay him a first round pick salary. They might be able to, when he could potentially be traded. So again, that's another one. Like, of course, if Lamar signs a long term, we could potentially get Huntley traded for, so because we only have 5 picks coming in the upcoming 2023 NFL draft, which is lower than Eric DeCosta or EDC as we refer to in Baltimore likes, with around 8 to 10 draft picks. He's doing the do. Drinking Coca-Cola. Should be drinking water. But the thing is this: if Lamar is absolutely refusing to sign a sensible, and that's the key word here, we don't really know what the contracts look like, but if he's not willing to sign like a top 5 contract and pounding the table for fully guaranteed like top 3, top 1, or number 1 contract, and while wanting to, because the thing is, everyone's looked at Kirk Cousins now and what Kirk Cousins did. Kirk Cousins said, "Hey man, franchise tag me, pay me that top money. Franchise tag me, pay me that top money." And even no matter what, and then Deshaun Watson showed you can sit out of football if you're that good of a quarterback and come right back in and get a max contract from a team that is so desperate for a quarterback, basically. So Lamar Jackson's kind of looking that route and saying, and again, also they've talked about it. Right now, the number for a quarterback is about $46 million a year. And of course, with the salary cap always going up and player contracts always ballooning, if Lamar was to franchise tag, then become an unrestricted free agent because he couldn't be tagged the third time, essentially, he would hit the market at approximately $60 million a year instead of 46 to 50, which is what he's trying to get right now. And that's a big part in these contract talks because he's looking at that and saying, well, I could go Kirk route, make my 45, then sign a 5-year at 60 million instead of a 5-year at 46 million, basically. Which, again, is making issues. And as a Baltimore fan, why would I ever want to do that? Why would I want to sacrifice the longevity of my team by taking back-to-back cap hits at the highest paid position in the NFL, where I need long-term stability and someone that's willing to stay with my franchise? So can I say a long chat message? Go for it, man. I haven't had a chance to really analyze, Jordan Love too much. I haven't seen that much good out of him, but it's one of those ones I could see Jordan Love in a very similar situation to what Justin Fields is in right now. So basically what's going on with Justin Fields is they're saying, hey, we're giving you all the tools next year, kind of like everyone's following the New York Giants example. They said, hey, Dan Jones, we kind of think you might be the guy, but let's be honest, we haven't given you a fair shot. Let's give him one good year. Make sure we really go get the guys we want and do what we got to do. Protect him and get him some weapons and see what we can do. Dan Jones did it. I think Justin Fields is getting his turn next year, and I think we're going to see Jordan Love's turn next year as well. Christian Watson's pretty good wide receiver. You've got good running backs. You've got a solid O-line. You've got a solid D. And with Aaron Rodgers coming off the cap, the Green Bay Packers are not going to have the cap casualties, if they had. So the O-line's going to stay together, the D's going to stay together, your halfback room's going to be okay. So you're only going to add more to this team, basically. And I think is it Jordan Love in his 4th year now, coming up on 5th year next year. So it's one of those ones. You're also going to have potentially a little bit of money to go get somebody. Who knows? Maybe you're in the sweepstakes for DeAndre. And that's all Green Bay's looking for. Can you get us basically on that to or on the edge of the playoffs and show us that, because like case point, if they don't go get that number 1 wide receiver for him, he's still surrounded by a great team. So basically what Green Bay is probably looking at is saying, hey, we can keep this team together just like Aaron Rodgers had it. You've been sitting here watching this. Nothing's changed. You need to at least go put on the same or better numbers, or team record, I should say, as Aaron. And if you can do that, then, if he's going into a 5th year option, that last year of his contract, make the move. Go get him like a DeAndre Hopkins. So, Stephon Diggs, Justin, those number 1 guys. And if you can get them, and he takes another step on that final year, yeah, you give him the extension. He's your franchise quarterback at that point, you know. And unless he goes and wins a Super Bowl, he's not signing for super money. I think it's a great deal what they're planning right now. Sadly, right now, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a lot of faith in Baltimore's chance of hiring a good offensive coordinator. I don't know. First of all, I think it's funny. The guy I really want as the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens isn't, even getting an interview. But it's because everyone knows he's going to be a head coach. Oh, yeah. That's that. Christian Watson's going to be a big part of that, basically, growing into the next number 1 wide receiver for them. And then, like I said, pair him with going out and getting a guy on the market or through a trade, potentially either next year or the following, depending on Jordan Love's growth. All right, but with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about here now the offensive coordinators that have been interviewed by the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, I'm going to start this recording. All right, guys. So we're going to officially start today with talking about the search for Baltimore's next offensive coordinator under John Harbaugh. The rotating carousel continues here at M&T Bank. And we've talked about here in our previous videos, I don't have a lot of faith here in Harbaugh making the correct hire, but, we're going to try no matter what. So number 1 on the list, Byron Leftwich. Why did it? That was weird. Now, Byron, I kind of like. You're going to see, I'm going to have my rankings here. But, previously he's had a lot of really good years running that Tampa offense. However, in 2022, they were 25th in the league in scoring, had the league's worst rushing attack. They were really high in passing yards, but what it was is their red zone and third down efficiency, if I'm not mistaken, which are key struggles for Baltimore. One thing to note is Byron Leftwich basically Bruce Arians' system more so. So, of course, he followed as a player. He was the backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He followed Arians, his offensive coordinator at the time, to Arizona, then to Tampa. But Byron, from what I understand, is very much liked by his players. The defensive production as it talks about there for the Bucs was almost identical from the previous year. So it really highlighted the struggles of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. However, they did have some O-line injuries, including Ryan Jensen, the former fiery redhead of the Baltimore Ravens. Man, I really didn't want to see him go. But we kind of like the Byron hire. Byron, as you're going to see in my final rankings, is pretty high on my list. However, I don't think he's going to be our guy. Next up is going to be one of our Why is it doing that? One of our internal candidates here, James Urban, the quarterback coach for Lamar. Now, when I was overlooking everything, we did not see a lot of play calling experience for James Urban. Of course, his closest was an assistant offensive coordinator. I took a similar approach to John Harbaugh, was an assistant coach under Andy Reid. He basically took over as like an interim coach whenever Reid had a patella injury a long time ago. He was key part of acclimating Vic into Philly as well when Michael Vick went to the Philadelphia Eagles. So he was really good for Lamar's transition to the NFL and to the Baltimore Ravens. However, I remember reading Lamar doesn't work with James Urban really that much, especially in the offseason. From my understanding, Lamar has his own quarterback coach and throwing coach that he works with. With that being said, that might be why we see some inconsistency in Lamar. And I forgot who one of our former who was it? One of our former offensive coordinators for the Baltimore Ravens actually was tweeting today that Baltimore would be better off going internal for this hire, which I'm not so sure on. My biggest critique here of James Urban is he's been here. Unless he was banging the table every day for Giro to go, I don't have a lot of faith here. Unless James Urban, and this is something we'll never know because we're not in that building, guys. But unless James Urban was in Harbaugh's ear every week, hey, I can do this better. Hey, this is really bad. Hey, this is where we need to improve. Hey, we can do this instead. I don't want this hire. And I know that's going to sound a little bad, and I'll show you here in just a moment, I'm not a real fan of our other internal candidate in the Baltimore Ravens. So next up, we got Chad O'Shea. Started as a wide receiver coach and a recruiting coordinator in college. He had one season as an offensive coordinator in Miami before he was fired, and he's been the passing game coordinator for Cleveland the past 3 years. Now, we're going to see something here when I talk about some of our better coaches. Passing game coordinators can make a successful transition to play calling, even though they don't have play calling duties. So Chad O'Shea not showing much of a play calling duty standpoint. However, as someone who's watched the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield messed up a lot of stuff. Deshaun missed a lot of throws. Cleveland's passing game has not been terrible. However, there's just something here in the back of my brain that says this guy's not our guy. And just the Cleveland curse kind of. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know about him. Cleveland schematically has put together some pretty good games against Baltimore over the years. And that's the only reason that gives me pause here. But when we requested this interview, I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised by the Chad O'Shea interview. So here's I hate I was doing this. Zach Robinson. This one is going to be the interesting. He's known as a rising star in the league under the Sean McVay tree. Kind of took a similar approach here to Kellen Moore, the former BYU quarterback and former offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, who we talked about in one of our previous videos. Now, Zach Robinson, from my understanding, has not been given a second interview by the Baltimore Ravens. So he's probably not high on the list. However, Zach's going to be a name to keep an eye on for a while. He's a former Oklahoma State quarterback, and at Oklahoma State, it was him, Dez Bryant, and one running back who ESPN once rated the best offensive trio in the league or in college. 2019, he served an assistant quarterback coach under Sean McVay and head coach, and Zach Taylor, the quarterback coach, basically. Which, of course, as we know, Zach Taylor left to Cincinnati as well. So again, that part of that Sean McVay tree of Zach Taylor, Sean McVay, and potentially Zach Robinson. He switched to an assistant wide receiver coach, then back to a QB coach. So kind of moving around a little bit. The only downsides, though, no play calling experience and very young. One of those ones. Potential, a lot of potential, but I don't think he has again that real step in like passing game coordinator and play calling, which I think he's not ready for that step. But in the next year or two, I think we're going to see Zach Robinson as an offense coordinator somewhere else in the league for sure. We're Super Bowl defending team in history, says Penguin Goats. So moving on, this is our other internal candidate here for the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be one of our tight end coaches. So I don't like. I feel like this is one of Harbaugh's guys. Let me put that first. So he started coaching at a very highly touted private school in Georgia, powerhouse, as a quarterback coach. They didn't do too well. He moved around, ended up on the Patriots staff as an offensive assistant, which is really where he gets a lot of his credentials. He seemed to be really good friends with Matt Patricia and Bill O'Brien, according to my research. He followed Bill O'Brien to the Texans for 2 years, where we know Bill O'Brien just melted the Texans, basically. He was a QB coach and an O coordinator before he was fired. Then he went to Matt Patricia's Lions, which, of course, we know how that went. Then he went to the Dolphins as a tight end coach and assistant coordinator for 1 year before he came to the Ravens. Not a lot of play calling experience and not a lot of success. This one, when I did my research, this interview was a mystery to me. I said, why is this guy even being interviewed? Like, to be honest with you, yeah, like your Penguin Goat says in chat, not our guy. But let's be honest, how much I disapprove of Harbaugh sometimes, I could see it. All right, this one is going to be the hottest interview in the NFL, and it was last year. Eric Bieniemy interview. So we requested it. We have not done it yet. For those that aren't aware, of course, he was Adrian Peterson's running back coach for years for the Vikings, some of his best years, promoted to assistant head coach for offense. He became the O coordinator for Colorado. They offered him the head coach job, and he turned it down. He then was hired as the Chiefs running back coach under Andy Reid, where, of course, we know how that went. They've put out halfbacks left and right. Of course, promotes offensive coordinator, and the rest is history. They have been phenomenal on offense. He, of course, does have a little bit of baggage, but this is one of those ones, I don't see it. Why would you leave Kansas City as an offensive coordinator, getting to coach Patrick Mahomes and win Super Bowls, unless you're going to be a head coach? This is one of those ones, I would love it, of course. I'm going to be honest here. I would love it. But I don't see him leaving for an offensive coordinator position. The fact that he hasn't been offered more, I think, is ridiculous. But, like I said, he has a lot of personal history. I don't know if everyone saw, too, Joe Mixon, who I've never been a fan of this stream, has got a warrant out for his arrest. Apparently pulled a gun on some lady. But, so I don't see him being our guy because I just don't see him leaving KC for an offensive coordinator job. I feel like he would have left last year if that was the case. But great play caller, great offense. A little bit of problems, like I said, personally, but. So here's one for Chimera if he was here. Chad Hall, another one. Nope. I don't know why. There's not a lot on this guy. Started his coaching career in 2017 as the Bills' offensive assistant, promoted to wide receiver coach 2019. No play calling experience, and a former like 5'8", 5'9" wide receiver in the NFL that kind of, I believe he went undrafted, played around a little bit. So he's got a lot of playing experience, but from my understanding, no play calling experience. Nothing really with developing quarterbacks. This is another one, guys, was a head scratcher for me. I said, nope. I'd rather interview the quarterback coach of the Eagles, or which we talked about in one of our other videos. The Chad Hall interview, to me, not a lot of sense here. So I'm going to move on it from pretty quickly. Doug Nussmeiser. So this is one we actually talked about in one of my previous videos, guys. Because Doug Nussmeiser, who was not retained by the Cowboys, just like Kellen Moore, was the quarterback coach over there. He has tons of coaching experience. I could totally see this as a Harbaugh hire. He coached Dallas Cowboys, Florida, Michigan, Bama, Washington, Fresno State, the St. Louis Rams, and Michigan State. A lot of quarterback coaching, a lot of offensive coordinator experience. However, on the record, there is nothing spectacular. From all of those teams that he was on and all of those teams that he's coached, there's not like, oh, he led like this great offense, or, they won this championships, and he was average, which is why we say, again, we could see this as a Harbaugh hire, because we're not huge fans of Harbaugh here on this channel. And then, yeah, like Penguin goes saying, no, don't even look at him, talking about Chad Hall, our previous prospect. Exactly. No, not our guy. And while we talked about Doug Nussmeiser coming, we only talked if Kellen Moore was coming, basically. Because Kellen Moore showed a good, in my opinion, adaptability when Dak Prescott went down with injury, which was my biggest thing. Of course, our number one pick here on my channel, on Darwin's Raven here, for our head coach and offensive coordinator was from the Philly staff. I wanted what's his name, Steidman or whatever. But so Doug, a lot of credentials, a lot of good experience, but not who I want. And again, we'll unveil our rankings here at the end of the video of who we think it should be. So Dave Canales. He is one of the few that has secured a second interview from the Baltimore Ravens. If I'm not mistaken, pardon me, I believe I have Dave listed number 1 or number 2. I'm a huge fan of this guy. The only guy to take over him is the coordinator for the Philadelphia. So he's a former offensive assistant at USC is how he got his start. He has then spent 12 years on the Seattle Seahawks staff working his way up. He started as offensive quality coach, moved up to an assistant quarterback coach, then to a wide receiver coach, then to a QB coach, then to the offensive passing game coordinator. And excuse me, I forgot the name of the coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, but he is basically an offshoot. The offensive coordinator for the Seahawks came from Sean McVay's tree. So basically, Dave Canales is another Sean McVay / Pete Carroll quarterback. And that's how you can kind of talk or envision that offense, which I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. I would love to see that actually in Baltimore. However, no previous play calling experience, but that's why we talked about passing game coordinators actually doing pretty well as offensive coordinators. During his tenure as a QB coach and passing game coordinator, they were top 10 DVOA twice, and they made the transition, of course, from Russell to Geno without a lot of effects. So high on my list here, Dave Canales. I think, though, there's potential that he doesn't get the job for the same. We'll talk about this more at the end, because I think Harbaugh would be threatened by him, because I could see Dave Canales coming as our offensive coordinator. Harbaugh gets fired and he takes over. But it's one of those ones, when is Harbaugh going to get fired if he brings in a good offensive coordinator? Like, Todd Monken is going to be our next guy on the list. Again, another person for the Baltimore Ravens that has secured a second interview. Of course, he's the offensive coordinator for the University of Georgia, who are coming off another national title. Was a wide receiver coach for Jacksonville back in 2007. Offensive coordinator for Tampa in 2016 for 2 years. He was offensive coordinator under Freddie Kitchens in Cleveland, which didn't last long. And then, of course, made his return back to Georgia, where he did pretty well. I tried to find more on the offensive style. I'm not a huge fan of coaches from college powerhouses. Now, of course, he made a change in quarterback, I think, or in his previous experience, when he had a quarterback in college for 3 years, he did really well. So he has a good track record of developing and improving quarterback play. Of course, runs the ball pretty well. And's got a decent amount of play calling experience. This is another one that I could see as a Harbaugh hire. Now, is Todd really willing to leave college, winning national titles and all of this, to go to the NFL, back to the NFL again? Not so sure. Maybe he's a little disturbed about everything that happened with Georgia and all the partying and everything like that. I just don't see Todd leaving for an offensive coordinator job in the NFL, but maybe he really wants it. But I could see him Harbaugh making this hire, but I'm not sure. Yeah, the Dave Canales, as Penguins talking about in chat, Dave Canales is a good pick there. Todd Monken, not too bad. So this one is an interesting one. And I'm not really a fan here, but there's a lot to process. Justin Alton, who's received, again, a second interview from the Baltimore Ravens. I could see this as a Harbaugh hire. So in 2016, he was the offensive assistant in Atlanta. He moved to Green Bay as a tight end coach. Shout out to Penguin Green Bay fan. He just got his play calling duties in the last 2 games of this season against KC and the Chargers. But previously, they had already turned over play calling duty to Clint Kubiak, Gary Kubiak's son, week 11 of the season. It still didn't go well, which is why they basically moved out into the play calling box and Kubiak back down to the sideline, where, of course, he had 2 outstanding games. My knocks on this, though, is the playbook's probably not his. So it was really good play calling sequence, but was the playbook design really his? And you were playing teams that, like, case in point, KC was already in the playoffs. They knew that, at that point, the second to last game of the season, they're not really trying to show a lot. They're kind of go back to more of a bland style of offense and defense prepping for playoffs. More of that game tapes, again, going for playoff opponents. Has only 2 games of play calling experience. Exactly. He could be a really young, smart coach. And again, his play calling sequence showed pretty well and pretty good. But there were big gap plays where, Judy bailed Russell Wilson out on like a 44-yard throw that kept them in the game and, all this. So I'm not a huge fan of this because there's just not enough to go on for me. Maybe next year, I think he could be the guy because, of course, he's going to get the play calling duties if he stays, more than likely. But I could see, again, this as a Harbaugh hire. This is why he's got a second interview. I think he ran for like 200 yards the final 2. So he shows like a good, mix. I don't want him, honestly. He's not my pick. So this one's very interesting. Our next guy, Brian Angelico. I actually looked up how to pronounce it. Angelico. according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, like literally 3 hours ago, he's getting a second interview. So he's the fourth to get a second interview now, the last of them, which means they're still looking. He was a tight end coach for 6 different teams. Only recently was he giving his passing game coordinator privileges in the 2022 season. This is one I like and I don't. I put above Outen, but so here's my thing. When we did our analysis at the trade deadline, oh, and I'm sorry, let me make this known. Canales uses a tight end friendly offense. So Angelico here, prior to trade deadline, we talked about how the Hawkinson trade didn't make a lot of sense, even though it definitely was an upgrade over like Irv Smith, I think, and whoever their other tight ends were. The offense didn't utilize the tight end very much up to that point. Maybe that's because of talent, and I didn't, check back afterwards. But Hawkinson's a pretty good stud. You know what I'm saying? Um, so prior to it, he didn't use tight ends much, which of course we want to highlight tight ends. However, the Vikings were, I believe, a top 5 passing team in the NFL this year. So as a passing game coordinator, that bodes pretty well. However, you got to look though. You got Justin Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those ones. He could have been the reason they did so well passing and they put together that offense this year. But at the same time, like I said, you got to give Justin Jefferson that respect because he is literally that good. Um, so gonna be a tough one there, but Angelico's actually pretty high on my list just because I have a hunch about him. I could see him as a Harbaugh hire. Again, why he's probably getting that second interview. So with that being said, I want to show y'all what my actual rankings are. I think Eric Bieniemy has the most potential as a play caller here. However, I think he kind of deserves to be a head coach at this point. With that being said, for an offensive coordinator, I don't think there's any better pick for us than Dave Canales. After that, I'm coming number 3 with Byron Leftwich. I think he's actually putting together that style of passing offense with a lot of your 3 offensive line missing a lot of time shows that he's able to design a pretty quick passing scheme, and they've shown downfield potential. I'm going number 4. I'm bringing in Brian Angelico. Yeah, for all my new viewers, thanks for dropping in. Are you part of the Raven flock or you somewhere another team? I'm bringing in Brian Angelico, though. I've got a lot of faith in his ability to utilize our tight ends, even though, but just the step the passing game took in the Vikings for the Vikings, I think is enough to put it on there. Zach Robinson, the rising star from LA, I think he's got a lot of potential, and I don't know. I kind of always have been a little bit of a fan of the Sean McVay schematic. I just think sometimes you need the people. Number 6, we're coming in with Justin Outen from Denver. There's just not enough on tape there for me to warrant the hire. After that, I've got some of the old guys there. Doug Nussmeiser at 7 and Todd Monken at 8. And Monken might seem weird at 8, guys, but it's just one of those ones I don't have a lot of faith when you have that level of talent like Georgia did, basically. James Urban coming in 9, his internal hire, but just like I said, unless he was pounding the table to get Greg Giro fired, like it just Chad Hall makes no sense. Actually, I want to put Chad Hall. If I can fix this, I'm putting Chad Hall below Chad O'Shea. I'm sorry, Chad O'Shea. Chad O'Shea should be 10. Chad Hall should be 11, and George Godsey is coming in at 12 because I just don't think it. Of course, we haven't requested Shane Steichen of the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's obvious because he's going to be a head coach somewhere. It's obvious, and probably I feel like his QB coach is going to follow him as his offensive coordinator unless he stays in Philly. And it's one of those ones, some of these guys on this list, I truly don't think Harbaugh will hire because he's too scared that they will be able to take his job. Dave Canales, like I said, is one of those guys. I think Dave Canales is headed to be a head coach somewhere very soon, especially if he has one good season as offensive coordinator. And that's what kills me, guys. Because no matter who we bring in to Raven Nation, so let's say we bring in Dave Canales from Seattle, and we keep Lamar and we keep Harbaugh, and we have an MVP season. We win the Super Bowl. Well, Harbaugh's not going anywhere because we just won the Super Bowl. You can't fire a coach after winning the Super Bowl. But do you think Dave Canales is going to stay as our offensive coordinator in Baltimore? The only reason Eric Bieniemy is still an offense coordinator, not a head coach, is of course of his personal history and all the baggage that comes with it. So Dave Canales is not going to stay as an offense coordinator. Byron Leftwich wants to be a head coach, but he has a hard time. And it's one of those ones. Same thing with Zach Robinson. I think we're going to see, just like Dave Canales, that Sean McVay tree that they're going to keep stepping up into head coaching jobs across the NFL. With that being said, the safer picks, Brian Angelico, Justin Alton, I could definitely see Harbaugh picking, even though I think they're lower on the list. I think Lamar is going to technically, because Lamar is going to have a say in this, I think Lamar is going to strike the Todd Monken, Doug Nussmeyers. I think he strikes James Urban as well because basically we talked about Lamar has his own quarterback and throwing coach in the offseason, which shows, in my opinion, a little distrust of James Urban. I don't think James is going to be around very much longer in Baltimore. And there's a few things to look at here. So there's other coaching vacancies still in the NFL. So Indianapolis is still looking for their head coach, which they have lined up interviews with Eric Bieniemy and Shane Steichen. Very going to be a pretty good pick there. And there's actually been a little talk about trading of Jonathan Taylor from Indy. Even though he is a stud, it's about rebuilding the franchise, getting picks, and paying that money to a running back, essentially. Arizona still looking for a head coach. However, of the listed interviewees for Arizona's head coaching job, none are really overlining. Same thing for the Panthers offensive coordinator search. We're not really seeing anything overlining from our Baltimore search. Tampa has actually interviewed Todd Monken for their offensive coordinator position as well, while Tennessee and Washington have put in requests for Eric Bieniemy or finished them as well. So Eric, like we talked about this year and last year, one of the hottest coaching names on the market. Shane Steichen's was mentioned in a lot of those head coaching searches as well. But Frank Wright, D'Amico Ryans, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the other head coach, Sean Payton. Of course, Shane Steichen was in all this. And of course, as we talked about, Shane Steichen was my number one guy. I wanted Harbaugh gone, and I wanted Giro gone, and I wanted Shane Steichen as our new head coach. And guys, I'm telling you, do some reading on Shane Steichen. He is talked so well of in NFL circles for his ability to reverse engineer the game, put pressure on defense, and truly adapt his system. One of the comments we came across when talking about Shane Steichen was that basically there's no true identity to the offense. He really adapts that well. And of course, we saw what he did with Jalen Hurts, which is why we banging the table to bring Steichen over here to Baltimore and replace John Harbaugh. I think it would have given us a great long-term offensive-minded head coach that would have kept a system in Baltimore, a successful long system with longevity. And that's what we're sorely missing, because as long as we have Harbaugh, like I was talking about, we're going to keep circling through offensive coordinators. Yeah, I really don't. Veronica and chat, I really don't want Justin Alton. I think Eric Bieniemy I don't know if you were here for my previous slide, but Eric Bieniemy is actually number one here on my list. But I think potentially he might end up as a head coach. Um, it's going to come down to him and Steinich for, I think, Indianapolis's head coaching job. And it's just more about the pick, who they're going to go get in the draft, who Jim Irsay will go get in the draft for them, basically, and allow the GM to do it. I could see Harbaugh also bringing in Brian Angelico from the Vikings, as we talked about a little bit earlier. If you're just coming in, if you wanted me to talk any more about anyone on this list, please feel free, because we're kind of at the end of my slide here. But so the final thoughts here. Sadly, I don't have a lot of faith in John Harbaugh to make this hire right. And this is, if you're new to my channel, this is something we've talked about and I'm going to go over one more time. You are, as a leader, responsible for everything your team does and fails to do. Joe Flacco went through almost as many offensive coordinators as Jake Cutler did. And that's discussed a lot in NFL circles. So Flacco never got that credit. And Harbaugh consistently brought in offensive coordinators that inhibited and delayed our progress as a team. Harbaugh, in my opinion, has truly never taken responsibility for that. I did. Actually, Byron, if you see, Byron's actually number 3 on my list. And he was actually one of our very first person we talked about. So I'll cover one more time for you, Veronica. So Byron, we actually, like I said, number 3 on our list. In 2022, the Bucs took a step back in points average per game, and they were pretty bad, league's worst in rushing. However, Ryan Jensen, our former center, was technically out for basically the season, I believe, with an ankle injury. Tristan Wirth, left tackle, missed extended time, as well as someone on the right side. But so of course, though, prior to that, we all know Tampa has had a top 5 offense for the past previous years. I was a little worried. My one critique is, how much is it of Bruce Arians? Because, of course, Byron followed him as from a player in Pittsburgh to Arizona, then to Tampa. However, I believe Tampa had a top 5 passing offense this year despite the injuries. So in his favor, basically, that's a big thing, to be able to adapt your passing game with big O-line injuries, and still, they finished 5th in passing right there. So big one. I don't know if Veronica, if you saw just a few hours ago, let me find it here. According to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, about 3 hours ago, we have lined up a second interview for Brian Angelico, the tight end and passing game coordinator for the Vikings. Another one where they ended up in like the top 5 passing in the league this year. So with the Harbaugh thing, I'm going to put it like this. Your team, thank you, Penguin, by the way. But so with Harbaugh, I'm going to make this a metaphor for a restaurant. Our team is a restaurant. The players are like my servers and my cooks. They're my essential personnel that I can't run the restaurant without them. My offensive coordinators are maybe like shift leaders or shift managers, like assistant managers. My head coach, of course, is going to be my GM. And, basically the owner is, Steve Biscotti, the owner is the owner. EDC and general management is going to be like regional or operational managers. We're waiting. I noticed that some people had completed their interviews for Bieniemy while we had not. The fact that we still haven't and we're still bringing in people, I believe we want that interview. My question is this. I think Bieniemy's looking at the Indianapolis Colts head coaching job, and it's between him and Steichen for that. But the metaphor with Harbaugh, so, as a GM of the restaurant, which is Harbaugh, you're constantly going through shift managers left and right. And then shift managers, your offensive coordinators, and such, your assistant coaches, are not leaving really for better positions, and not only are not leaving for better positions, they're not doing it well if they do. So at that point, I'm going to tell you right now, as a leader, that brings up to me and says, whoa, if my leader is not raising leadership and raising other leaders, something's wrong, because that's what real leaders do. A good head coach successfully has his under coaches going for offensive. When's the last time an offensive coordinator for Baltimore was leaving to become a head coach? Let's say that right there. And I think we are waiting on Bieniemy for that interview. I just don't know if I don't think Bieniemy leaves for an offensive coordinator job. I really don't. Why would you leave KC? Why? The only thing that's holding him back from being a head coach on another team is his personal history and the baggage that's behind him. But so on that point, again, our offensive coordinators aren't leaving to become head coaches. They're not going to be like, oh, this offense coordinator over here at this NFL team because they really need it. No, they're downgrading. They're disappearing, which is an obvious sign that Harbaugh is not hiring the correct people. Harbaugh has not been doing the correct hiring process. And I'm going to tell you, if I was the EDC, basically the regional manager, operational manager of that restaurant, I'm going to come have a talk with my GM and say, hey guys, you're not hiring right. Something you're doing is not right. And like we just talked about, even if we get a good offensive hire and let's say we bring Bieniemy in and we win a Super Bowl, do you think Bieniemy's going to stay in Baltimore, or do you think he's going to leave and become a head coach? I just realized Veronica and Miguel Meja, both like brother sister, I'm guessing. Brian Johnson, that's the quarterback coach of the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken, or my apologies. Was it him and Jay Steidman? I think Baltimore has already basically put out all the interview requests that they want out there. I don't think Baltimore is going to put out any more requests. I was a little surprised by the second interview of Angelico, but I think it could be a good hire. With that being said, like I said, I don't think we're going to put out anymore. I think we're set in stone. Like, we have 4 people, I believe, currently with second interviews now that Angelico's received a second interview, with Bieniemy probably going to get 1. I think after we interview Bieniemy, I think we'll make our hire out of those 5. I just think bringing on any more is going to be too much. And if Brian Johnson, I'm going to Google it just to make sure I'm accurate here. But if that is who I'm thinking of. Oh, and Lamar will, and I'm guarantee you Lamar is going to technically veto some of these. As we talked about a minute ago, I think James Urban is going to be a veto of Lamar. From my understanding, Lamar does not work with James Urban, our quarterback coach, in the offseason. Lamar has a private coach he works with. Hey, Chimera. Welcome, man. But so Lamar works with a private, and that's why I think sometimes we see a little bit of inconsistency in Lamar's mechanics. And like I talked about James Urban, unless James Urban was at Harbaugh's door every day banging the table to get Giro out of there, James Urban's not enough a leader in my book. Yep, and there's a lot going around. And like I said, no matter what, I wanted Jason Steidman from Shane Steichen, I'm sorry, from the Eagles. But double check here. Yep, that's who. So I think Brian Johnson, Miguel, to really answer your question, is either gonna follow Shane Steichen wherever he goes to be, because Shane Steichen, we were just talking about, and the NFL circles is regarded as like a genius. His ability to reverse engineer his offense from the defensive point and create mismatches and problems is talked about glowingly. So I think Brian Johnson is either going to follow Steichen as his offensive coordinator wherever he goes, or when Shane leaves, he will take over as the offensive coordinator for Philly, which then either way he's headed for a head coaching or offensive coordinator job himself somewhere else. I think we absolutely could let James Urban go. I actually mentioned that a little bit earlier. I think his time's coming to a close in Baltimore. Um, it's just one of those ones. I I thought it was a good hire at first. James Urban, if I'm not mistaken, was part of Michael Vick's transition in Philadelphia, which is why we brought him in. I think it was originally a good idea. Um, However, some of Lamar's throws, as we talked about, his inconsistency in his mechanics is what leads to that slight inconsistency sometimes in his shorter accuracy, which kills me. And I think that comes also from having two different quarterback coaches. Um, and um, Mike has head coach potential. Uh, Gosh, here, sorry, go back. There's a lot of guys. I think we're seeing a lot of Sean McVay's tree. Like we talked about earlier, Dave Canales, number 2 here on my list for our offense coordinator, is a Sean McVay slash Pete Carroll. Zach Robinson, also the rising star, is part of that Sean McVay tree. You're seeing a lot of Sean McVay sprouts. And if I'm not mistaken, the reason that it is because they made a good and simple offense. Not only the whole wristband thing, which they talked about in the middle of the season. There was the whole controversy. Well, Russ wouldn't wear the wristband. Well, Russ didn't do this, and they talked about Dave Canales would help Gino. Was they came up on the wristband with shorter terms to abbreviate these longer terms so he could get, and that's something Lamar needs desperately. I actually am so Miguel, in the thoughts to Mike McDonald, I'm actually kind of a fan. So in the first like 3 games watching, I was pretty critical. Like in one of the games, he ended up only rushing like 1 or 2 people on like a red zone play. While I understand it from some perspectives, it really didn't work. One thing I did like though was he did show a good level of adaptability with everything. I think he gets a lot of heat because we weren't shored up till Roquan. So a lot of people say it was on Roquan Smith for shoring up our defense. I argue Harbaugh needed to let Josh Bynes go a while ago. And I used to argue this in the Baltimore Ravens group. We were treating Josh Bynes, an off the street player, like he was a long term solution at middle linebacker. Malik Harrison, the Ohio State product, I love. Not truly stepping up and actually played a little bit outside, kind of like John Simon used to be. But and I loved Ross, our undrafted rookie free agent from Michigan, who was one of Mike McDonald's team captains, or Mac McDonald's team captains. So I really liked him, but he went down early. Other than that, who do we have an inside linebacker? Nobody. So I don't blame him for that. And I think this year he was truly testing how different looks would work truly in the NFL. The Mac McDonald hire was 100% Harbaugh saying, I messed up, man. I messed up. Because I don't know if you know, it came down to Wink Martindale and Mac McDonald. And they gave it to Wink. Which, of course, Wink didn't work out for us. And Wink changed his entire playbook, basically, after he left Baltimore to kind of show us. And that's why Mac came back, because that was Mac's basically like revenge tour, like, told you I was right, told you I was the guy. Yeah, McDermott is a offshoot of someone's tree. Who is he? Tree offshoot. I'm trying to remember exactly. Gonna kill me. If Eric, and I could see that, and that was something I discussed at one point while during the live end of the season press conference with EDC and Harbaugh. I actually discussed what if Harbaugh was retiring, so not firing, Giro parting ways. What if Harbaugh was retiring, which I kind of was hoping was the case, but it didn't happen. Hey, can I tell you a joke? So Eric, I could see Dave Canales, like we talked about. Dave has really. Oh, he's a Rivera tree. That makes sense. Okay. Rivera was a more defensive coach. Well, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, your defense perennial play is pretty good, so makes a lot of sense there. Dave Canales has a lot of head coaching potential as well. And that's one of those ones. Miguel. Dave Canales is another one I could see coming in. If he has a good season, he's leaving to be a head coach somewhere. And that's again my problem with Harbaugh. No matter who we bring in, it's either going to be a bad hire or they're going to leave for another team to be a head coach probably in a year or two, and we're going to be back right here to square one trying to figure out an offensive system because Harbaugh is a special teams coordinator. And I've been very critical of Harbaugh, but let's not get one thing twisted, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I believe Harbaugh is a good leader of men. I think he's a subpar football coach. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, as long as it's not like a terrible joke or against, what's the word I'm looking for? Community policies and terms, basically. Miguel, though, we had some head scratching interviews. The chair, George Godsey, and I don't know if you saw Miguel as well. Our former offensive coordinator, God, I forgot his name, actually came out basically saying we need to hire internally here, which I completely disagree with. I could not be more of a opponent of that, basically. Maybe not then, just not right now. But did either of them do well? Did Jim Caldwell do well in Detroit? Not really. Did Gary Kubiak do well? No, he's gone already too. He disappeared into nothingness. And where's Jim Caldwell now after the Lions? We don't have where's Cam Cameron? Where's Marty Morningwig? Where's Mark Tresman? Where's Giro going? Let me see. Who else do we have? I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. Gary Kubiak, Jim Caldwell. It just, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. I really wanted Harbaugh to be gone, and I really wanted Shane Steichen from Philly because Baltimore and Philly do have those close connections, internally. Yeah, if we hire internal between George Godsey or James Urban, again, no faith in what we're going to be doing. Because like I said, all these people on this list, you came in a little late, but we went over all of them. Like I said, right now I don't have a lot of faith in Harbaugh to make the right hire. My favorite, of course, out of all the people I looked at through yesterday and today, like trying to do some research, my favorite, of course, by far was Shane Steichen, who's not going to get a chance because he is going to be a head coach somewhere. If I had to bet, I think Dave Canales is going to be the best pick for us. However, I really feel like Harbaugh is going to pick Alton or Angelico. Because, like I said, Canales, in my opinion, has that head coach potential, and I think Harbaugh would be a little threatened. And that's what I'm saying, Miguel. Harbaugh, in my opinion, has never taken true accountability for all of the bad hires. And how many offensive coordinators that we went through, like under Joe Flacco, for example. And until we hire a head coach with a more background of offensive coordinating, we are never going to get out of this hole. At least Bill O'Brien had a system. I'm not Bill O'Brien, Brian Billick. Your joke was... an interesting joke. He saw me laugh. But the thing is this, guys, I'm pretty critical of John Harbaugh, and I'm always nitpicking my Ravens because we'll say this: correction made out of love is a beautiful thing, and that's all I really want. I want my Baltimore Ravens to be so most successful, even when I am critical of someone or I'm against something. Deep down, I want them to prove me wrong. I want them to. Nothing would make me happier than being critical of John Harbaugh, and then Harbaugh goes to win Super Bowl. Because even though I was critical and I didn't like him, I still might not like him. I'm super happy for all my Raven fans. I'm super happy for my Ravens players. I'm happy for the city of Baltimore. Like, and Miguel, we talked about in this channel so much. I wanted a Super Bowl so badly this year just for Calais Campbell. Like, Calais deserved a Super Bowl so bad it wasn't even funny. Um, and Miguel, if you like my video today, I don't know if that was your sister that was in here too, and anyone that does come in and watch. Hopefully tomorrow I'm going to be doing another video just like this where I'm going live, but also recording my video as well. Where I'm going to also kind of re-go over my State of the Ravens video a little bit more here with PowerPoints and truly break down and discuss who we want extended, how we make the cap room, basically everything. I'm going to go over everything other than Lamar because I want to save Lamar, the extension, the contract, and trade possibilities, all of that for a whole nother separate video. I'm still trying to do my draft stuff here. I mean, I'm always happy for Green Bay. I'm happy for Green Bay unless two conditions unfold. One, we're playing you in the Super Bowl. Or two, we're playing you in a game somehow that affects truly, I mean, I guess just against us, I should say. Unless you're playing against us, I'm always going to be happy for you and root for Green Bay a little bit. We gotta give a little support to Grossi, especially after everything. So But tomorrow, I'm hopefully going to be covering again, doing another video talking again about what we want from the Baltimore Ravens, how we make some more cap room, how we actually keep this roster almost the same and be able to bring back, even if Lamar does an exclusive franchise tag. Because we're going to go on 100% the assumption for that video, just like the State of the Ravens, that Lamar is going to sign an exclusive franchise tag and that we're going to have like a 43 to 45 million cap hit. But through a little bit of two trades, as well as some extensions and a little bit of work, we're going to work through the restricted free agents, and a few other things as well. Oh, absolutely. We're right in it. The Bengals might be losing Joe Mixon over that their criminal menacing charge, pulling the gun on the woman, supposedly, that happened last night. The Bengals, if their offensive coordinator goes, they might take a small step back, but no matter what, it's Zach Taylor's system, so it's not going to change too much. The North is going to be an insane division next year. I 100% expect the Browns and Deshaun Watson to take a step forward next year. I absolutely expect the Steelers to take a step forward next year. The Bengals are going to stay in contention, and Ravens are definitely going to improve, basically. So it's one of those ones. It's going to be a very hard division in the AFC North next year. But as I've always said, our iron sharpens iron, and we will play our best when the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Browns and the Bengals are all at their best as well. I think next year we see the AFC Championship representative, or the Super Bowl AFC Championship or AFC representative, coming from the AFC North. Mark my words. Put it on paper. AFC North going to the Super Bowl next year. As for the NFC, I'm sorry, guys. Ain't no one undoing the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think they're in cap situation either. Like, they're in a good situation. The Philadelphia Eagles are basically going to be able to repeat plus add more talent, if I'm not mistaken. Haven't taken a deep look at their free agency, but For any of my new subscribers, though, like, subscribe. Let me know if you're there. Who's your team? Are you part of Raven Flock? Are you dropping in? For my Twitter, Facebook, trying to figure out where my best outreach is and do a little more. Like I said, we're going to be doing another video tomorrow, kind of another state of the Ravens, but hopefully, just like today, we'll be doing a PowerPoint presentation to try to make everything look a little better. Jordan Love in the Super Bowl, bleh. I agree, Miguel. That's why on my list for number 1 and 2 we have Banimi and Canales. I definitely think they are the go-tos. Banimi is number 1 just because he has a track record of being that O coordinator and having great success. And 2, Canales. I think Canales actually has more potential as a head coach than anyone on that list. I'm sorry, Chimera. I'm sorry, man. I think the AFC North is going to be ridiculous next year. Bengals aren't going to lose a lot. They're going to restock hard through the draft. Daxton Hill, whatever his name, safety actually played well when they finally actually started using him at the end of the season. Bengals, like I said, I think they're just going to be kind of perennial because Zach Taylor is going to keep that team pretty consistent, I feel like. So as long as Joe Burrow, and they've got Jamar Chase, Bengals are going to keep doing Bengal things. I think it would be terrifying if the Bengals upgraded their tight end position too. I think Joe Mixon, no matter what, they'll find another running back in the draft. And like I said, Deshaun was starting to get his stuff together. Give him 1 year with that Cleveland Browns team. And again, letting them keep going. I think the Browns are going to be really strong next year. The Bills are in a little bit of a cap situation. They're basically going to have to either clear cap space or they're just going to have to let Von Miller go, basically. They're still probably going to have to create a little bit of cap space for their draft picks. So Bills are going to be in an interesting situation, in my opinion. They're going to be at a state where they're either, I feel like, going to be the same or kind of take a half step back because the whole Von Miller signing was about winning the Super Bowl. Penguin, I will go check them actually as soon as I end this broadcast. And see, there you go, Chimera. Talking about Bill's schedule next year is not looking good either. That's going to be a rough one. I don't think your Bills are going to be the Super Bowl team next year, barring one thing. So you have to do a good job in free agency retaining. You have to do a good job drafting. That's all given. But I think what gets y'all over the hump for the Super Bowl is going to be a trade. I think y'all want, like case in point, y'all wanted Christian McCaffrey this year, Ken. Can you imagine the difference? You saw what he did with the 49ers game. Christian McCaffrey took that game over and was carrying it on his back. If he'd had, could you imagine Josh Allen and Christian McCaffrey? So I think the Bills, I think y'all should have paid up to go get him, honestly, for the Super Bowl run. I think it would have made all of the difference for y'all. So I think you need that caliber of trade to get over, to make that jump. You know what I'm saying? Because with your cap situation and everything, I think you're going to be about on par. You're going to be on par, but only like a half step up or down where you need that full step to get there. Man, Rashad Bateman. And Miguel, thank you for saying that, Miguel. I have been such an advocate of Rashad Bateman. People are like, oh, Baltimore doesn't have... Did you watch the tape? Did you not see Lamar Jackson's numbers plummet whenever Rashad Bateman went down and started having injury problems? Like, I'm like, did you not watch the game and see that Bill Belichick double team Rashad Bateman basically the entire time because they knew how good Rashad was? My argument was, and it's again, when I discuss everything, it's hard to even analyze the situation because Greg Roman. Between Greg Roman and then Bate and Duvernay going down, hard to make an actual clean analysis on what we're going to be and what our potential is. But I think Bate coming back next year, Duvernay coming back, and I think Baltimore needs to go find someone who is 6'3" or bigger that has 4.5 speed. Basically, we need Miles Boykin, but one that can learn our actual system. Because we wanted Miles Boykin to be that guy, but just he couldn't get on the field because he couldn't learn the playbook. And I've talked about this, Miguel, in some of my previous videos. When we went back and analyzed Lamar in college, like 80% of Lamar's wide receiver roster in college at Louisville, 80% of them basically were 6 foot or above, just about. Like a lot of his guys were. Lamar, sometimes due to his footwork, has a little bit of inconsistency in his mechanics. This inconsistency in his mechanics leads to about a 20% direct correlation to his inconsistency accuracy. Which is one of those ones where I'm like, bro, if we just and I think that's also part of Greg Roman's offense. I think Lamar's eyes aren't where they're supposed to be when they should be, and I think there's too much going on in the pocket. I love play action. I design play action in every playbook I do. However, I think the play action sometimes was too much. So Lamar wants a bigger guy, and I would love to see that. I think it would open our playbook up dramatically. Do you think my Packers will be the Super Bowl team picks? Penguin, I don't think next year's your year. Now, this could all change, of course, because if you trade Aaron Rodgers and you get a really nice trade package, Jordan Love will have the team around him that he needs to succeed. I'll put that on record because, like we talked about, if Aaron Rodgers comes off the Green Bay Packers cap, you're not in cap heck anymore. And without all those cap problems, your roster stays almost identical. With that being said, most of your potential is then going to be added in draft capital, which is something I love. And so then it comes down to, do you draft well? Christian Watson played out pretty well. And with that team staying pretty solid, you have a good O-line, you have a solid D. You could add maybe some secondary depth as well as potential O-line replacements for the future. Basically drafting for the future, but also providing really good depth. And it's hard to call it because I haven't seen enough Jordan Love. Playoff, yes. Super Bowl, Philly's going to be a tough game. I actually don't think McCaffrey would have made the necessary difference. I'm going to actually stop my recording. Start a new one. So we're taking questions from chat about different things. I actually don't think McCaffrey would have made the necessary difference. Dorsey needs to call better plays, and Allen needs to return to form. A competent O-line would help too. Some of the things definitely were questionable, and when I was watching that game, some of the play calling for sure. I'm just a big fan of Christian McCaffrey. When I was watching Christian came out of the draft, there was one thing that separated Christian McCaffrey from every other running back I had studied, and they actually brought him onto Sports Science to discuss it. So Christian McCaffrey has an incredibly high steps per second rate. And what I mean is when you watch him, he chops his feet so quickly and so just precisely, naturally in his running style. It allows for really great burst acceleration and really quick change of direction, which of course is very obvious in his running style. Like that touchdown run in the 49ers game where he made 3 men miss, that was sole effort by him and his running style. Now, it has to be known that the running style has to fit the scheme, and the 49ers already run like this outside zone where Rasheem Mozart and some of these other really fast, quick backs succeeded in. So it was a great match running scheme-wise to the player, whereas I think Buffalo kind of prefers more of that downhill running scheme, kind of like Baltimore. So I don't think schematically it would have worked. However, Christian McCaffrey is basically also a wide receiver out of the slot. So Christian McCaffrey's catching potential in that, I think the Buffalo Bills could have utilized him as a moving like Christian McCaffrey in motion every single play. Like, I mean, every single play. And sometimes moving him into the slot as a wide receiver on a 5 wide look. Because if you move him, let's say you start the formation, you come out in like an I formation single back. Then you switch to a shotgun, and you line up McCaffrey to the left or right. Then you motion McCaffrey into the slot. Do you know how many times Josh Allen got to read the linebacker and safety and watch the play design change? And because, then that linebacker is basically, or the safety, whoever's on McCaffrey's got to follow him into the slot. If it's a linebacker, that's automatic match. That's an automatic hot read, basically. And you don't think McCaffrey can, if they blitz, you don't think McCaffrey's going to slip away really quickly on like a jerk, a slow go? Like, there's so many routes he can run out of the slant. And that's why I was like, that's why I wanted, or I actually was for Christian McCaffrey going to the Bills, because I think that difference in the passing scheme from, like, who do you have? James Cook and Nyheim Hines, I think, was your third. I'm trying to remember the other guy. But I think your running backs, great, like, power runners with good burst, but I think passing wise, none of them came close to Christian. I'm actually posting a video today at 5. Do you think Chuck gets... so Chuck Clark getting traded is going to be a very big thing to watch. I think he actually kind of does want to stay a little in Baltimore now. Of course, he was very upset and he requested the trade when it first happened. I think there's room in Baltimore for 3 safeties, and I think it kind of showed. I think Chuck's one of those ones where his cap number's not bad. We can afford to keep him. But if he truly wants out still, I think it would be a class act for the Baltimore Ravens to allow it. And it, of course, would make sense because he is a starting safety in the NFL caliber-wise. And we talked about it earlier. Baltimore only has, I believe, 5 draft picks heading into the 2023 NFL draft, which is well below what EDC, Aussie, and just Baltimore in general likes to have. I believe EDC likes to have somewhere between 8 to 10 picks. And if we are going to be in a cap situation with Lamar, we're going to need draft talent to step up. So, and of course, Broderick Washington, Justin Madubuike, I think in our 2024-2025 contracts potentially. So we're going to have to start looking for depth pick there. The ones, Miguel, on the trade market that I covered in my State of the Ravens video. I don't know if you've watched it. We got to get draft picks and we got to create a little cap space. I could see Tyus Bowser on the move this offseason for some low round picks, because also I think he's going to make $5 to $6 million. And with Owe still in his rookie contract and Ojabo, of course, finally getting healthy, and I think the future of that position, I could see Bowser on his way out, actually, potentially Dalen Hayes as well. And the other trade we were looking at is, it's not a trade I want to make, but it's a trade for cap space. Michael Pierce, before he went down with the bicep tear, was playing like top of our defense. He was like 90 plus grade PFF like 3 times, I think. He was playing outstanding. Tore the biceps. We could save, I think, again, like $6 million if we trade him post-June, which is one of the ones, as long as he's healthy, that's like a top 5 D-tackle play on a really good contract, in my opinion. But it's just, we had Broderick Washington really stepped up this year. I've always been a fan of Madubuike, and we also have Travis Jones. Or is it Chris Jones? Oh my God, Travis Jones, sorry. Travis Jones. So we have really good young D-tackles, 3 of them. Potentially also Campbell coming back, and oh my God, Brent Urban. So, and Brent actually came back on a really good contract, and I've always I liked Brent Urban's potential. He just had a little bit of injury problems, but he played great for us this year. So it's one of those ones I could see Michael Pierce being moved to free cap space, but again, for those low round picks, just like Tyus, I'm looking like 3rd to 6th kind of area on those trades. Whoever my new viewer dropping in, we finished covering the video, but we're actually doing some questions. So if you're a Ravens fan, drop a question or whoever your team is. Don't get me wrong, McCaffrey is insane. I just don't think we have the cap to pay him anymore, Allen. And so that's the thing. You don't have the cap to pay him. As we talked about, you're over the cap almost exactly what Von Miller's contract was. So you already, as the Buffalo Bills, took the approach like the Rams, like the Buccaneers, like a lot of these teams with Super Bowl aspirations. You went over the cap in an attempt to win the Super Bowl, which you can do, but it causes future problems sometimes. I think the Buffalo Bills did it wonderfully. I don't know if there's potential savings on post June trade, release, all that stuff with Von Miller, but you're like over the cap. So it's one of those ones. The Christian would not have stuck around. You would not be giving Christian McCaffrey the contract, but you would be using him on a 1-year buy that comes off the book, basically. So that's would have been. It would have been basically like a 2nd round pick for a chance to win a Super Bowl ring. Which Chimera, let me pose you that. Would if you think a 2nd round pick would, or whatever they gave for Christian, which wasn't a lot in my opinion, but giving that up for Christian McCaffrey, if you think that 2nd round pick would get you to the Super Bowl, which I think it kind of would have, or at least got you to the KC game for sure. Is it worth it? And I think so. If you're in that situation you're in where you're already going over the cap to try to win it, you know what I'm saying? Darrison, don't forget to check out the last 2 videos. And Miguel, you are correct. That's something actually we addressed in the State of the Ravens video, which actually I'm going to be going over a little bit more tomorrow as well. So Ben Powers, and this is what killed me. So when I first started this year and I started this YouTube channel, on Russell Street Report, it killed me because they were tearing into Ben Powers, and it's why I did my breakdown of the Ravens running game at the start of the season. Ben Powers played pretty well in that game. It wasn't Ben Powers. And actually, Ben Powers, according to PFF, I think it was one of the best pass blocking guards in the NFL this year. So Ben played his way into some money. If I'm not mistaken, Ben Powers should be looking at an approximate $7 million a year, average salary, which is going to probably price him out of Baltimore, especially if we don't get the deal done with Lamar on a long-term contract. With that being said, though, Ronnie Stanley coming back fully healthy. Moses played pretty well. I want to sign Zeitler to an extension. And Linderbaum, the all-rookie stud, who, again, during draft time, my Green Bay fan was with me. I don't know if we have this on the channel or if I did it on Twitch, but I was so happy with the Linderbaum pick, guys. Oh, I was ecstatic. I believed it when they said that was the best center prospect they've seen in like 5 years. But we also have Patrick McCary, who I called at the beginning of the season being a great Swiss Army knife, can play any position on the offensive line. And it's funny, a lot of the people in the Ravens group and Ravens fans called for Patrick McCary to beat Ben Powers for the left guard starting position in offseason, which I told them, no, Powers is going to win it. McCary is going to take over a very similar role to what we saw James Hurst, the former right tackle, do for the Baltimore Ravens, where he played left tackle, right tackle, and guard. And I might have played a little center, too. And I was like, he's going to be that Swiss Army role for like 2 to 3 years for us. Going to be great. And then he's going to go play somewhere else, probably. And your boy hit one right on the hammer, as I normally do in the offseason. So I think even though Ben Powers is going to leave to free agency, they're looking at McCary and Cleveland to take that step up. And don't forget about Daniel Falele, our developmental right tackle, the big, like, was like 6'9" rugby player, however big he is, 340 pounds. Um, a little still slow off snap, in my opinion, for a tackle. But, I mean, dude, can you imagine 340 pounds at guard? He could be a stalwart. The only problem with that is can you imagine Lamar trying to look over a 6'9" left guard? It would be really hard. But can you imagine a 6'9", 340-pound left guard pulling on a play? Ooh, that's scary, bro. That's Mauler potential. So even though we might lose Ben Powers to free agency, I'm not terribly worried about it. And it will probably result in a compensatory pick for the Baltimore Ravens, which we desperately need. Chimera, absolutely. I want a ring. Only thing is, we got crushed by Cincinnati so bad. I have no faith one player would have made the difference. Yeah, I don't, man, I don't know what happened to y'all in that game. Cincy was missing 2 starting offensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Y'all should have been able to apply pressure. I think that was one of those times. I think y'all got out game planned. I think your offensive coordinator did not put together a great game plan, and I think it showed. I think Cincinnati's coaching staff, not Zach Ertz. Oh my God. Oh my God, I've been talking too much. Oh my God. Zach Taylor, the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, part of Sean McVay's tree. Sean McVay, these young coaches are very good about not being so conformed in their ways and game planning specifically, and sometimes coming up with really good game plans. So I think it wasn't a talent thing. I think you got out game planned in that game. Knowing DaCosta, he might trade him for picks. And that's what I'm saying, Miguel. DaCosta sitting at 5 picks, he cannot go into the draft with that. And I do not expect him to go into the draft with that. My highest one on the list for trade, I'd almost bet we end up trading, is going to be Tyus Bowser. I would almost put money on it. Tyus will be either trade or cut post June 1st. Mark my words, let it be known. I think next up on Chuck could be high on that list, and I think Michael Pierce is going to be high on that list as well. And it's not a plaything for Michael Pierce. It's just cap number and young players stepping up. But I'm trying to, guys, before the draft, I'm trying to do like 254 player draft analysis. I was talking with RSR, Russell Street Report, a Baltimore Ravens outlet that does some really good writing, and they talked about how Jonathan Ogden does player profiles, and he's got about 150 he's going to do. So I'm trying to figure out and allocate my time correctly here and do a schedule in my books here so that I can actually do a little bit of basically, I'm only going to be able to do like highlight clips more so, but I feel like I can usually do a good job of picking out, even in highlight clips, like that's not a highlight clip. That doesn't show me anything. That doesn't show anything good for them. That's, just bad competition, all that. So I'm going to be trying to do like 254 players. And with that being said, Miguel, I'm going to be trying to really find those sleeper picks for our Baltimore Ravens. My Fred YouTube video that I want you to see is about to come out in 10 minutes. Heard, Penguin, heard. When do I think the Lamar deal gets done? Miguel, I have bad news for you. The Lamar deal's not getting done. He's either going to play on the exclusive franchise tag or potentially be traded. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. So the NFL Players Association has been openly vocal about this. They are, because NFL owners are basically arguing the Deshaun Watson contract should be invalidated and can't be used as a standard in negotiating process. However, the NFLPA, oh dude, that Deshaun Watson contract is their masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. And they've been on record saying they want the Lamar contract to be like the bookend and cement these fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL. And Lamar, of course, is represented by himself and his mother. But that's not a lot because Roquan represents himself, which we got the deal done, and I think Mark Andrews represents himself. And we got, as EDC said in the end of the Ravens press conference at the end of the year, they got Mark Andrews' long-term deal done in 3 days, basically. Um, and if you actually go back and watch that video, and I tried to discuss it in my live reaction video while watching, I have a little bit of profiling experience. I'm a former ground security coordinator for the FAA and, started my schooling for psychiatry. There were very obvious clues in that press conference, guys, that where things stand. And I don't have them up here anymore in my OBS, but I actually had some of Steve Bisciotti's comments about it. And basically, I believe the Baltimore Ravens and Steve Bisciotti have truly drawn a line in the sand that they are not willing to cross. In my opinion, if the deal that was supposedly leaked by NFL, that was a 5-year, $250 million deal with $122 million guaranteed, was correct, I think that was a fair deal. The reason, too, Lamar is going the franchise tag route is also this. So they want to get the bookend for the fully guaranteed contract done. Lamar does, and so does the NFLPA. However, they've talked about it, and Lamar, I think, not sure if it was Lamar or other people around Lamar or analysts. So right now, Jalen Hurts, Herbert, a lot of these young quarterbacks are about to get their extensions. The projected market for franchise quarterbacks in the top 5 range is going to be approximately $46 million. With that being said, though, every year we see salary cap, other than COVID, of course, increases and these contracts getting bigger. Every quarterback, almost every few years, is signing a new record-breaking contract. Kirk Cousins set the example with this. So Kirk Cousins did back-to-back franchise tags, then signed a long-term deal. With that being said, the current market is $46 million this year for a franchise quarterback. The exclusive franchise tag will pay Lamar about $43 to $45 million, and if he has to sign it a second year, he gets another 10% increase or something ridiculous on it. So he can make 45 this year, more next year. Then when he hits the open market as a quarterback, the expected market for franchise quarterbacks is going to be closer to $60 million a year, which is another reason why Lamar is really dragging his feet here on this whole process. Because Lamar's saying, I can franchise tag. We just saw Deshaun, who didn't play football for a year, get a fully guaranteed deal. So some team, even if Lamar played this year on franchise tag and sat out the next year, some team in the following year will be willing to give Lamar the contract that he wants because they are so desperate for a franchise quarterback. Can you imagine the Lions, what the Lions would give Lamar right now with the offense that they ran this year with Jared Goff, basically? Can you imagine Lamar in that offense, essentially? So that's where Lamar's at. While Biscotti is saying, hey, I think this is fair. We want you to commit to our franchise long-term now. Because if we do go this franchise tag route, not only will we not be able to keep the roster pretty similar from this year to next year, but also the following year with another franchise tag where Lamar might sit out. That would be a high possibility in my opinion. But that could happen, and even if Lamar does play, his high cap hit from back-to-back exclusive franchise tags would absolutely devastate Baltimore's cap space. And of course, Lamar then would definitely not have the weapons around him. So if Steve Bisciotti's looking at this and saying, sign it, or I guess we have to move on. And that's heartbreaking. But that's where I think it's the Lamar deal's at, basically. Miguel says, if Lamar leaves, I'm gone. Oh, don't say that. Don't say that, Miguel. I understand because I have my critiques of Lamar, but I've also, and we talked about earlier in the stream, I think Lamar has number 1 potential in the NFL. I think his skill set and his potential, he has that. How has he lived up to it, performed to it? No. Is it all his fault? No. Is some of his fault? Yes. And we talked about this a lot. It's really hard to evaluate Lamar Jackson based on Giro running that offense and Harbaugh being here, in my opinion. Lamar can't be given truly a fair evaluation. Then on top of that, barring the injuries and again, I was very critical of Baltimore and Harbaugh's decisions at roster decision time in camp and not keeping some of those undrafted rookie free agent wide receivers that I think Lamar could have performed better with than say like Sammy Watkins or some of the other guys we signed. But um, I think I'm gonna go say Byron. So Penguin going, not going. Lamar on the Lions equals, and that's what I'm saying. The Lions are one of the contenders. I don't think Lamar really wants to go to Detroit, but if like trade options and everything, and Lamar was out there, the Lions would be because that. Can you imagine like the fan base for Detroit? How nuts they would go if somehow they ended up with Lamar Jackson this offseason. Detroit would lose their minds. And that's Lamar represents that. Not only MVP potential, but the energy and the livelihood he brings to the fan base, the excitement he can bring to a fan base. He can revitalize a franchise. And so for that reason, that's why I bring up someone like the Lions, because that's a fan base that saw potential this year with, just how their team was able to do something out of nothing. No one expected that out of Detroit, putting up points like that per game. So it's one of those ones like Super Bowl for the Lions if they get Lamar. Hey, like legit, like I said, he has that potential. I think Greg Roman truly inhibited Lamar, not only from a schematic point, like from the wide receiver routes, and like we talked about when we watched some of those games, guys. I'm sitting there going, it doesn't even look like he knows how to use a stack formation correctly. He stacks a formation of wide receivers and tight ends, and then there's no depth points. There's no the spacing was so ridiculous. I was ready to be sick. And then the play calling running wise, some of the play calls run wise were great. And then some left you scratching your head. It seemed like Giro was up there and every few play calls just cut out and he didn't know what was going on. And another big thing is going to be getting the play calls into Lamar quickly, which is why, again, we talked about we're a big fan of Dave Canales, because the system they use is they use very short terms to abbreviate very long sequences. So he's able to get up there, get the play call very quickly, shortly, and concisely, get to the line of scrimmage and make reads, make motions, and all of this. The other part of Greg Roman's offense that we were not a fan of is with the play actions and the fake screens and all of the... All right, first of all, Greg Roman worked way too many fake screen throws into that offense to not actually run any freaking screens. Like, there was, for weeks, I was screaming, please run a screenplay. Please just run a screenplay. Please. We finally started running some wide receiver screens to Demarcus Robinson, but still not enough. Because the thing is, a lot of these guys were playing like 10 yards back. They were playing in zone coverages with all eyes on Lamar, which is why we talked about a lot of Mark Andrews' yards came just sitting down in zones, basically. But so with that offense, Lamar's eyes, if you watch his eyes in a lot of the plays, they're not on the defense. He's having to fake to the halfback, fake this over there. And sometimes when I'm watching, I'm like, the play is developing so much that he's like, there's, it's clear it's a fake at some points. Lamar's getting his eyes back down on the linebackers and safeties so late that I feel like he's pressured at that point to throw and there's nothing open. I think if Eric Bieniemy came, I think Lamar would be ecstatic. We've already stolen some aspects out of Casey's playbook. So I think Lamar would be ecstatic, but it's one of those ones, like I said, if Eric Bieniemy comes here and Lamar wins a Super Bowl, do you think Eric Bieniemy's staying as an offensive coordinator in Baltimore? No. Someone's going to go, hey, he basically won a Super Bowl with Mahomes, won a Super Bowl with Jackson. There's a really good quarterback prospect coming up in the 2024 NFL draft. Whoever's got the number 1 overall pick's probably going to have a head coaching position, and that's where Bieniemy's going to end up going at the following year. As for streaming the Pro Bowl, I don't think so, guys. Of course, Super Bowl we're gonna be streaming. I'm gonna try to put a lot of effort into this Super Bowl show, guys. Um, and of course, whenever we do stream the Super Bowl, there's not, I can't put Super Bowl in my title. So if you're like trying to share it or look me up by Super Bowl and not by my subscribe, you won't find me because, like I said, Super Bowl is a trademark term of the NFL, and even having it in your title, it can be considered trademark. So not gonna do it, but we will be streaming it. The Pro Bowl, I don't know. I've not as much a fan of the Pro Bowl. I said, when is the Pro Bowl even? I don't even know, guys. Like, oh, no worries, man. I'll be honest. A lot of the people here, if you're, for the Super Bowl, you're probably gonna be at like a Super Bowl party or at a bar or something a little more fun. Um, oh, the menacing charge was dismissed against Joe Mixon, so Joe Mixon's gonna be okay. The NFL might still come after him a little bit, but Sean Payton to Denver. That's going to be a very interesting one, guys. Like, I don't know if y'all can see how long this NFL page is taking to load for me. All the top up here still hasn't loaded. How bad my computer is and is dying. Top 10 game planning nightmares. I've got a lot of stuff to look at. I'll say, when is the Pro Bowl? I thought the Pro Bowl already happened. Because weren't they doing all the games? One thing I am excited for here, guys, right here, Senior Bowl. If you know anything about my Baltimore Ravens, we love Senior Bowl players. So that's going to be a big one. We might actually watch the Senior Bowl. That might be something we actually do watch. Of course, they're talking about the standouts from the practice. Let's see here. Yep, give me just a moment here. So the Pro Bowl. Oh, well, the Pro Bowl's in 2 days on Sunday. I may or may not stream the Pro Bowl, guys. The Pro Bowl on Sunday, I might give that time and go hang out with my girlfriend. Maybe we'll go see a movie instead. The Senior Bowl, is tomorrow at 2:30. I might stream the Senior Bowl. My girlfriend's off and we're trying to play some Stardew Valley, but heading to YouTube now, actually, Penguin. Alright, desktop audio's cut. There you are. Three months ago. Are you talking about your short, by the way, Penguin? Oh, that was loud. I'm not gonna lie, Khmer, it would be absolutely hilarious if he did. There's no way he retires and then comes back again. Like, but it would be funny if he went where Garoppolo went. Like, 32. Oh my God, excuse me. Pardon me, excuse me, guys. Dying. I saw a cat and I started sneezing. But I think that's gonna be it for today's video and stream, guys. Okay, yep. That cat was a purring penguin. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to show you a video. I got a video one day where I found a crow on the side of the road that looked like it had been hit. So I have a video of me just driving down the road with like a crow just standing on my back seat in my car, just chilling. I was like, this is how me and Poe became friends. Okay, that's what I thought. And don't forget, I haven't forgot about Penguin. Not only what you said about being in a short or like doing like some type of duet or something, but on top of that, uh, I need to be doing more shorts. I'm just trying to make sure that when I do them, I'm doing them right and I'm doing like better. I don't know. Even though like you were talking about, you just gotta put them out, man. You just gotta start putting shorts out left and right. Case in point, I don't know that the little video of when I did the sandboard to show you my dog. I should probably just literally take that and make it a short, put it up, you know, because it is a really cool kind of just interesting thing. But Chimera, Penguin, Miguel, if I don't think you're still there, but thank y'all all for dropping in, guys. I'm gonna be trying to do another video. I think same time tomorrow about 4:30. Where I'm going to be covering kind of more of the Baltimore Ravens roster. But if y'all would like, I will be more than happy if you tell me now, especially, to take a deeper look at the Buffalo Bills as well as the Green Bay Packers rosters. Kind of looking at how you can create cap space, what trade's going to look like, free agency might be going for, and things like that. Just basically a preview of free agency. I thought I did. You know what? While I actually have the chat up here, let me open my Discord. I thought I did, but now I'm not sure. Oh, Todd Monken just got another second interview for the Baltimore Ravens. Hold on, we got breaking news, guys. Todd Monken hadn't got a second interview yet. Okay, Dave Canales getting a second interview. Okay, Todd Monken. Oh no, did have Todd Monken. Okay. Let me see. Did I take a picture? Or did I do I think I did a screenshot. Yep, there we go. Hold on 1 second. Add friend, Discord. All right. Close that. Close that. All right, Chimera, I have officially sent you the Discord friend request. Heard look at the bills, so I'll make sure to get up extra early tomorrow. So I can make sure because I got up a little bit early today to start on this video. I was working. You know what's so terrible is getting my OBS set up because it crashes on me so hard. I hit a blue screen of death earlier today and I had to redo everything. But between that and basically creating that PowerPoint, finding that info, and kind of doing some reading to make sure I didn't sound uninformed, took me from like probably 11 or 12 o'clock till 4:30, so like 5.5 hours, which is definitely bad and does not bode well for me doing 254 other draft profiles. So I've got to start doing a little better, which is why I'm trying to organize and do this better. And hey, I have a new Discord friend. Look at that. Accepted my friend request. Okay, that character, if I'm not mistaken, is from what is it called? Oh God, we just took Code Geass. That's a Code Geass character, is it not? um, I mean, yeah, it might be Penguin. Well, Penguin has a YouTube channel, so I don't know. Let me ask you, Chimera, are there any you're watching from this season? Bro, I just straight ninja'd. God, there's a bug. I want to snatch it like a ninja. But I don't want to break my $300 screen. Did I get him? Oh, let's see. Oh, I thought I got him. Guess I missed him. Let me see here. You're a weeb. I feel it though. I feel ya. It's one of those ones. I grew up with Toonami when I was younger and all the good animes. I'm trying to load AniChart. With that, I'm going to stop the recording. I actually recorded everything I did on the PowerPoint today. So hopefully tonight I'm also going to try to go to Audacity and upload it as a podcast. And we're going to try to get a podcast off the ground, guys. Oh, Demon Slayer Season 3, the Sword Village arc is going to be so freaking amazing, Chimera. Like, I am beyond stoked for that season. Also, my channel rose 100 subscribers. Oh, Demon Slayer is so goated. Like, Chainsaw Man was good, of course. Demon Slayer, though, I went and saw the movie, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Chainsaw Man was good. Mob Psycho is good. I like My Hero. The Underworld arc of Bleach was good. Eminence in Shadow is good. To My Eternity is a freaking masterpiece. Masterpiece, if you haven't watched it. Reincarnated as a sword was better than I expected. Trying to see if there were any other good ones from last season. Vinland Saga is going on right now. Oh, Vinland Saga, another absolutely great. I'll be honest, like the anime for last season, this season, and spring of next is just oh yeah, I've seen Hell. If you all right, Chimera, if you've watched Hellsing Ultimate, you have to watch Hellsing Abridged on YouTube. One of the fun, dude, I used to die laughing. Yeah, Vinland Saga. Oh, I don't know if you've watched Tokyo Revengers, another really freaking great one. I love Tokyo Revengers. Oh, I saw OI and then oh, you don't do horror movies? Oh, actually, they aren't horror. Oh, Helsing. Helsing's not really horror, but it is about basically like about a Dracula kind of. Dude, Helsing Abridged. B words, because I don't want to cuss for in front of Penguin. B words love cannons. Is one of the all-time greatest lines. I used to run around when I lived in Ohio yelling, "Bit love cannons." Um, a secret sleeper. I picked it up a long time ago when it first came out, and I was like, I'm probably not gonna watch it, but it was one of those ones. It made me giggle enough that I watched enough. It's called Bo Furry. Basically, it translates into I don't want to get hurt in like another world, so I put all my points into defense. And it's about a girl, that like two girls that play a game, and she doesn't really know how to play, so she just kind of does her thing, but ends up like breaking the game every time. And it actually turned into a really good one. Oh my god, I forgot about that line, Chimera. Oh, that's one of those ones. Chimera, I have a friend that we watch anime, and I was like, I would love also to have like a whole separate playlist on YouTube where I just did nothing but anime reviews and talked about anime and stuff that's coming up for the next season and all that stuff. Yeah, Maple, bro, Maple. I love Bo Furry and Maple. It's actually really good, and of course, it's in its second season right now. There's actually a really good one that's all kind of like about the two. It's a female-driven anime where the female uh, main character protagonist is actually a lesbian, and of course not really accepted, I think, in her world. That's showing actually some really good promise this season. Not like fan servicey kind of. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. I don't know if you've watched this one, Chimera. but the name does it no justice. And it's called like How to Pick Up a Girl in a Dungeon. It's on its like fourth season now. I don't know if you've ever watched it. They split the fourth season in half, and oh my god, it just every season gets better. Like it really does. I don't know. This season there was a lot that like I wasn't like second season looking forward to, but there's been a lot of really good surprise ones. You know what I'm saying? That like where I give them like I'll give an anime I don't know anything about a try. But of course, everyone's looking for spring, man. We get the third season of Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Swordsmith Village arc. We get Doctor Stone back, which I used to like Doctor Stone. We get the final or the first half of the last season of Attack on Titan. Um, oh, what else is there coming out? I think the Black Clover movie's coming out soon as well. Like, and I love how we went from football to talking hardcore anime. Dude, there's just so many. Like, I'm one of those ones. I'll read the anime, like, see what it's about, and a lot of them I'll like give a try. A lot of them don't make it past 3 episodes, but oh, Chimera. I'll admit the last season kind of I was a little mad how they did it all. Um, so I actually did not fully watch this past season, but I think what it is I'm gonna wait for honestly, at this point, I might wait for Attack on Titan to fully finish and then just freaking do nothing but watch it for a while. A lot of stuff getting second season, so where's the movies? Yep, the Black Clover movie to finish the Black Clover series comes out March 31st as well. So I know that's another big one. A lot of people are going to be looking to. Bye, the two of you. I'm gonna go. All right, bye, Penguin Man. Thanks for dropping in. I really appreciate it. I'm probably about to hop off myself. I didn't mean to talk anime this much, but it'd be like that sometimes. Try to see if there's any other good movies coming out. Doesn't look like it. I'm really waiting for a reincarnated as a slime to come back. I think we're gonna get that in the summer. But all right, with that Chimera, I'm heading out. I got to start prepping for tomorrow, and I got to go do some cleaning around the house myself. But thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for dropping in as well, Penguin. And